Te girin yakrapata mahambande Sri Guru Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna. This morning I was thinking of that statement that the devotee and the demon used to live on different planets. Then they used to live in different neighborhoods. Now they live in the same body. So, in a sense, prayer is like we're praying to the devotee within us because, we're spirit souls. So, soul is pure. Soul is a devotee. So, we're praying, devotee, come out and manifest. And we're praying, conditioned non-devotee, just go to sleep or die or become ill or whatever. Be so weak that you can't act. That's one thing. So we're always oscillating, maybe not always, sometimes oscillating between devotee and demon, or conditioned soul and pure soul. And so the more you nourish the spiritual side, the stronger it gets. The more you nourish the material side, the stronger that gets. So the more you give in to your conditioned side, the stronger that gets. The more you give in, so to speak, to your spiritual side, the stronger that gets. The other thing I was thinking, which is Krishna Govinda. Govinda. The other thing I was thinking was sometimes we're praying to become pure, to overcome anarthas and so forth. But sometimes we're also praying not to be overcome by the anarthas that take a long time to overcome. So, you can pray, Krishna, free me from my false ego. Yeah, like good luck. That takes like a million lifetimes for that. So it's not like, okay, I did my prayers today, free me from my false ego, and everything is good. But when it's something very deep, like false ego, bodily identification, and everything that goes with it, like lust, anger, greed, and especially lust is extremely, extremely deep, powerful, overcoming. That's how we stay here. So one of the prayers is, protect me so that I don't give in to the lust, as opposed to remove the lust. Although we can pray like that, for sure. Bhagavatam says, if you want to overcome lust, pray to Sanatana Goswami to protect. So it's, there's a difference between removing it and protecting me. So protecting me means it's there, but I don't act on it. Protect me from giving into it. So while we're becoming purified, sometimes we have to pray, or certain things we have to pray for, that Krishna, please remove this. That's not like something that gets removed that easily. Remove the desire to engage in it. Remove the that's really one of the big challenges of bhakti, is while we have anartha, while we have conditioning, while we have proclivities to not give into it, like we say, you can't deny your emotions, how you feel, but you do have control of how those feelings work for or against you. It's like sometimes you feel something and you're thinking, I shouldn't feel that way. Well, that's too late, because you do, right? So now what do you do that you feel that way? Or I shouldn't feel that way. Yeah, well, if I were pure devotee, then I wouldn't feel that way, but I'm a conditioned soul. So I feel that way. So it's okay to understand that I shouldn't feel that way. Maybe that's not the feeling of a pure devotee, but it's the feeling of a conditioned soul. So, well, maybe I shouldn't feel that way, but I do. So now what? Now what am I going to do about it? I think a lot of us maybe make the mistake of thinking, well, if I feel this way, it's already too late, and I'm too fallen, and I just have to give in to it. And if I were more pure, I wouldn't feel this way, which is true in one sense, but in another sense, not entirely true, because as conditioned souls, we will feel this way, and we will have certain desires. So what distinguishes for the sadhaka bhakta, what distinguishes his purity, quote unquote, or lack of purity, is often his or her ability to not give in to the anartha, not to give in to the desire, not to be controlled by the feeling, right? Like we have this example I've given many, many times, but I think it's such a perfect example. Arjuna is giving into his feelings in the beginning of the Gita, right? I don't feel like fighting. These are the reasons. And Krishna is saying, well, we have to do it because it's dharmic, even though we feel this way. So he eventually gets Arjuna to fight. So Arjuna is, you could say his feelings changed and he's fighting. Or you could say he accepts Krishna's wise words and no matter what he's feeling, he's going to fight. You could debate that. But when his son was killed, Prabhupada said naturally he was feeling grief for loss of his son. But the grief did not stop him from going back to the battle and fighting. And you know how Ashwatthama, excuse me, was it Dronacharya, whose son was Ashwatthama? Is that correct? And then Yudhisthira said Ashwatthama was killed, but under his breath he said the elephant Ashwatthama, which Dronacharya didn't hear, but he didn't want to lie. But in any case, that's another point. But when Ashwatthama heard that, Krishna knew when his son dies, he'll be finished. He won't be able to fight, right? But Arjuna's son died and he continued to fight. So there's a difference there, you know. They're both feeling that Prabhupada didn't say that Arjuna was so pure that he wasn't grieving for the loss of his son. Prabhupada said it's natural you would grieve for the loss of your son. You know, it's like we say the wise lament neither for the living or the dead. But I think we should maybe clarify that they don't fall into depression. They do lament, they do grieve, but not to the point that it's handicapping them. And so Prabhupada praised Arjuna by saying he is pure, that even though he was grieving or lamenting, he hadn't given up the fight. And so I think this is extremely important because we are going to be surrounded by desire, surrounded by feelings, thoughts, you know, because we've plugged those into our heart and consciousness for unlimited lifetimes. But the question is, what are you going to do about it? So part of the prayers we have may not be, Krishna, please help purify me of this desire, although that's certainly a valid prayer, but maybe more realistic. When you know it's a long process to purify it, Krishna, help me not give in to this desire because this desire is very strong. And I've tried to give it up and it hasn't gone away and whatever, you know. Like, let's say you overshop. Like your weakness is, you know, you're on Amazon every day or 3 times a day. And if I go to your house, there's boxes piled up, you know, every day. Can't even get in the house. So that's your weakness. So then, you know, you may pray, Krishna, please help me overcome this desire to accumulate more than I need. But you could also pray, Krishna, please help me not give in to this desire that I have right now. It's very strong. So that's important. So it's always good to remember that as we give in to desire, the desire becomes stronger. As we give in to our spiritual desire, withhold on the material desire becomes weaker. At least it becomes controlled. It's like a dangerous animal, but it's in a cage. So put your anarthas and desires in a cage so they can't bite you. That's really what we're trying to do. At least for those desires that will take time to overcome. So to, you know, pray, Krishna, please free me from this desire. And then you're wondering why Krishna hasn't freed you from the desire. Well, that desire has been cultivated for so deeply within us. It is part and parcel of our foundational conditioning and ahankara. That it's not something that's just gonna go. Another thing we can pray for, which I pray for a lot, is to cherish the vision and cherish the desire, which is opposite to that desire we want to give up. So if you're on Amazon 3 times a day, And maybe you need to start thinking how nice it would be to be a renunciate, to have very little, to give 80% of what I own away, to instead of living in a 40-room house, to live in a 1-bedroom apartment. You want to, I'm exaggerating, of course, you want to develop the hankering for what is the opposite of your weakness. How nice it would be to be, and you fill in the blank, which is the opposite of the thing you're attached to, and develop an attraction for that. That's really important, because what's going to motivate you to give up something is the prize that you can get when you give it up. But if it's just, I'm just going to give this up, and then what? And then nothing. I'll have no packages I'll have no Amazon packages in front of my house. Then I'll be miserable. But so you have to have the vision. Oh, I will be renounced. Renunciation is beautiful. Why is it beautiful? You know why it's beautiful. You remind yourself why it's beautiful. Why it's beautiful. You feel you start to feel what it would be like to be more renounced. You think of renounced devotees. You think of how you can simplify your life and so forth. So I was listening yesterday to a lady, she's an expert on trauma. And one thing she said that struck me was one of the ways to heal trauma is to start doing with this person who's been traumatized, or the person themselves doing the opposite of what created the trauma. So, if trauma was created by chaos in your life, maybe your life was totally unstable. You moved every 6 months. You kept losing all your friends, and your father was, in the military, and you never knew where you're going to be, and it may have had a traumatic effect on you. So now you need to do the opposite. You need, like, I just stay in one place for like 4,000 years, and do the same thing every day, and, with the same people. It's like the healing is the opposite. And we've talked about how Patanjali said that when you want to overcome an anartha, you think and act and feel in the opposite way. So it's such a good instruction. So whatever weakness you have, you think and do the opposite. What's the opposite? Like, we have a course on sexual purity. This course is for men. I don't feel qualified to teach it for women. It may be applicable, but you may have heard this, ladies, you may have heard this word objectify. Objectify means when a man sees you not as a woman or a human being, but just as a kind of like an instrument for their sense gratification, an object. So objectify, you've become an object. You don't exist beyond the pleasure you can give a particular man. So the man objectifies you. So what would be the opposite of objectifying? Okay, mother, Mataji, that's the complete opposite of objectifying, isn't it? So there's a lot of things we're instructed in Krishna consciousness that are complete opposite of the conditioned way of dealing with these things. We don't maybe realize that, but that's actually what's happening. So I tell the men, if you take Chanakya Pandit's idea of mother and you strip it down, if you're a good son, you will serve your mother, you will respect your mother, you'll try to make your mother happy, and so forth. And if you therefore treat woman with respect, it's the opposite of objectifying. If you serve, it's the opposite of objectifying, because objectifying is exploitation. So it's so important to feed in to the strengths, or to the places we want to be, or how we want to be. Feed those things. Because whatever you put in, you're going to feed on. So if you put in lust, you feed on lust. If you put in purity, you feed on purity. So it's really, when you break it down, it's like being Krishna conscious. It's quite simple. It's just, what are you feeding on? Feed on the spiritual, you get stronger. Feed on the material, you get weaker. And whenever we're feeding on the material, we're feeding into the conditioning, which makes it even worse. It's not like I'm just feeding on something, lust, anger, greed, envy. I'm feeding on something that's already got momentum, and it's getting more momentum. It's not like I'm growing something from a seed. So those are my thoughts this morning on prayer. How and I think also it's realistic because you can get discouraged if you're praying to Krishna, please help me overcome this, and the desire's still there, and you're thinking, well, what's the use of praying because nothing's happening? But maybe the prayer was wrong, and maybe the prayer just needs to be, help me not give in to this thing. Help me ignore it. Help me think and feel in the opposite ways. I think that is maybe more practical and less discouraging. Because that's really, for us as conditioned souls, really a lot of our job until we become more advanced is tolerating, isn't it? Like when this word tolerate is there, it's often in the context of us tolerating the pushings and pullings of this world, not necessarily tolerating other people or tolerating situations. That's there, of course, but often the context is tolerating ourselves and our own desires. So Krishna, help me tolerate the pushings and pullings. That's really what sadhana means in many ways. It's learning how to be more tolerant of our own desires that are unhealthy, our own feelings that are unhealthy, our own anarthas that are simply obstacles. So I don't think we can underscore the importance of tolerance in the stage of sadhana. When you have ruchi, then everything's different. Because when you have ruchi, your taste is so strong, you don't have to tolerate these other things. You don't really have a taste for them anymore. So, if you don't like something to eat, eating it when other people are eating it. It just makes you sick to watch them eat it, basically, doesn't it? Ooh, you're eating that? That's horrible. But if they're eating something the doctor told you not to eat that you like, you have to tolerate. So, welcome to spiritual life. It's all about tolerance until we become more attracted to Krishna, more attracted to the process. Then we're going to have to tolerate. And of course, we're trying to become more attracted to all these things. That's really what it's all about. Yes? I mean, it's what it's supposed to be about. So there's just some thoughts on prayer that you may want to pray for more tolerance. Pray to be able to not give in. I think that's the real challenge. Not to give in to my condition. Oh, this is just how I am. I can't control myself. Well, don't say that, because if you say that, you just empowered that conditioned response. This is how I am. This is why I'm like this. I've always been this way. Okay, you're trying to convince me and the world and yourself that there's no alternative to acting that way. That's not intelligent. But rather have the vision of how you want to be, and don't make excuses for not being that way, and pray to be that way. That's what we're trying to do, and that's how we should, at least some of our prayers should be generated in that mood. Okay, so much for my introduction. I thought that was important. There's the, what are two wolves in the body? The kind wolf and the unkind wolf. Feed the kind wolf, not the unkind wolf. So when you think it's difficult to be Krishna conscious, maybe it just means that you're feeding the angry wolf instead of the kind wolf. It may be simply nothing more than that. Okay, so I have a question. If a person has a trauma of fear of rejection, what is the opposite? Hmm. Trust. If someone lacks trust, that means probably they've been cheated previously, betrayed, let down, and therefore it's understandable, right? That people would have fears. You know, if you're flying on an airline that has a plane crash every week, yeah, you'd be pretty, but you can fly from Russia, from New York to Russia for $4. Yeah, I'll take a chance, but I'm frightened. Yeah, so that's natural, right? So I can't trust this airline, but now I don't trust every airline. That's the problem. That's irrational, right? So you want to rationally trust. A lot of people, when they have a trauma around something, then they become irrational about everything that reflects that trauma. So, of course, that's part of trauma is that it is irrational, then you will be irrational. So I don't know if my answer is too rational for a person who has deep trauma over something, because it's like, yeah, it makes sense, but I don't feel it. But anyway, the idea of acting in the opposite, I've taught about this. I've taught this a lot, and devotees ask, well, how do you overcome a belief? And I say, well, you have to act as if that belief were true. And sometimes it's hard to feel, like we do affirmations. On the affirmations, you're supposed to feel it as true and say, well, I don't think Krishna loves me. How can I feel it as true? That's the point of the affirmation. You start to act and think that way. And if you say, I can't act and think that way, then you have to think, could it be possible someday? Or you can think, like you say, I don't believe Krishna loves me. Okay, do you believe Krishna loves everyone? And then it's hard to say no, because Krishna says he does, right? So Krishna loves everyone. Okay. Are you one of everyone? Yeah, okay. So you sometimes you have to work your way around it. So, I can't believe Krishna loves me, but I can believe Krishna loves everybody. Okay, well, that's a start. Or I don't believe Krishna loves me. You think, all right, well, you think there's some possibility someday he could love you. Well, yeah, probably. Yeah, maybe in another life. All right, well, at least you're making progress, right? He could love you in another lifetime. And he does love everybody. And so if you can't take a direct process in opposite action, then you take an indirect process or an indirect way of thinking. So if any devotee tells you Krishna doesn't love me, you just say, do you think Krishna loves everybody? It's hard to say no to that, isn't it? I don't trust everybody. Do you believe everyone's untrustworthy? Well, no. It's just I don't trust them. Yeah. Okay, well, at least we got you believing that there are people who are trustworthy. So that's a start. Do you know anybody? Is there um, is there anyone in your life that did something that's trustworthy? You think, yeah, they did. So now you see, you have evidence that people aren't trustworthy. So you need to create evidence that people are trustworthy. Do you have evidence in your life that Krishna loves you? Did he ever do anything that would show that he loves you? Well, yeah. Okay. So you give yourself evidence, right? And then that builds, that counteracts the trauma. Okay, I won't fly in any airplane because this airline crashes every week. Did the other airlines crash every week? No. Did they ever crash? Rarely. Okay. So it's a start to build trust. Are there people who are trustworthy? Yes. Are there people who have done things that you could trust? Yes. Do you have experiences in your life where someone said they were going to do something and they did? Yes. So you're counteracting the trauma by remembering incidents where people were trustworthy. So in some way you want to opposite your negativity. Like, I can never do this. Well, have you ever done it? You ever done something similar in your life? Well, yeah, I have. I can never overcome this desire. Well, have you lived and overcome that desire? When did you do it? How many times? Yeah, well, I did it. So this is really another thing I was thinking about is really interesting. How sometimes we say, I can never do this. And then I say, well, have you ever done something similar? And you think about it and you say, yeah, well, actually, I have. So what's happening is when you say I can't do something, you're developing an identity that in this area I'll fail, right? So that's your identity. So what's the opposite? Well, what evidence do you have that you've succeeded in these areas or in an area which is similar to this? And then you start giving evidence and then your identity changes. Oh yeah, I can do this. I'm going from I am a person who can't to I'm a person who can. Would you like to hear a story about this? Well, first, I just want to make this clear that how do you become a devotee? Because you identify, I am a servant of Krishna, not a servant of Maya. And when you become convinced of that, then you can't not be a devotee, right? But you come in to ISKCON thinking, I'm whatever you're thinking you are. And then gradually you learn, no, you're a servant and you're a servant of God and you're a servant of everyone. And when you become convinced of that, you realize one day, as we all did, is like, I can't enjoy this material world because I know too much. And even though I want to enjoy it, it's not enjoyable because now I know I'm a servant, not a master. So the things I used to enjoy, they're not enjoyable. Even though I enjoy them, I don't enjoy them because I feel guilty because I know I'm a servant and now I'm imitating God and it doesn't work. Right? You all gone through that one? Maybe we go through that every day. Yeah. So you've changed your identity. And so once you can't be a devotee without the identity that I'm servant. If you think I'm enjoyer, if that's your identity, you're going to struggle to be a devotee because you'll always be going away from Krishna because you think I'm enjoyer, not Krishna, right? I mean, how many times did Prabhupada say I'm servant, part and parcel? Why did he say that so many times? Because we think I'm God, I'm enjoyer, master, controller. And so you have to get that identity really clear. I'm servant. And once that identity is there, then everything is good. And I've said many times that every time I think about enjoying something, I forget I'm servant because you cannot think about enjoying independently of Krishna unless you forget that you're a servant of Krishna because the two don't go together, right? They just don't work together, right? How can I think, oh, I'm going to do this. It's so enjoyable. And remember that I'm a servant of Krishna. You got to do one or the other. You like put them both together. It's really difficult because they're two opposites. You can dovetail, that's different. But so the more a devotee is fixed and I'm a servant of Krishna, that's all they do. They're not interested in anything else. So here's the story. Are you ready for the story? Yes or yes? Okay. Maybe you've heard this story. In the United States of America, the greatest country that is soon not to be the greatest country. I don't know by what standard we think it's great. I guess we have more money and more weapons. That's why we're great. If that's a standard of greatness, we're the greatest. We might have more problems also, not might, we do. So we're the greatest in wealth, the greatest in atomic weapons, and the greatest in problems, and especially psychological, right? So if you want to go to certain universities in the United States, you take what's called an SAT test. I don't know what you do in India. I think India, maybe it's just your grade average. And in some universities, it's your grade average. But there's a test called SAT. And if you get high scores on the SAT, then you can get into very prestigious universities. My daughter didn't have to take an SAT. I don't know. Yeah, but anyway. I don't know if you have something equivalent in your country. Anyway, so there was a boy who wasn't a very good student. It's kind of what we call a loser. And he got a really high score on the SAT. Like out of 1,600, he got 1,460. And like very few people get scores like that. And he wasn't a good student. And his mother said, did you cheat on it when they got the score? He said, did you cheat on the test? He said, no, I tried to cheat, but I couldn't, I couldn't figure out how to cheat. It was so controlled. I couldn't cheat. And she's like, this is amazing. You got a 14, out of 1,600, you got 1,460. And this kid was like, wow. So he was kind of a loser type, not really, interested in anything. It's a material story, but it makes a good point. So he started thinking, wow, I'm pretty smart. And, to get that high on the SAT, you're like amongst the people who are going to become the most successful people, materially speaking. So he's thinking, I'm way smarter than I thought. I'm way more talented than I thought, etc. So his whole sense of identity changed after he got that high score. And from that, he became successful in everything he did, in all areas that he attempted to become successful in ways he had never become successful before. And he went on, his life became extremely successful because his identity changed. 10 years later, he got a letter. I don't know if someone made up this story or it's true. 10 years later, he got a letter from the university and he said, we sent you the wrong score. Your score was 740, like, loser score. But it makes a beautiful point, and I really like this point to go deep in your heart because it's so important. We act based on the identity. So if I have an issue with lust, well, I'm just a lusty person. So if you think you're a lusty person, you will act lusty. If I have an issue with anger, I'm just an angry person. And it may be true. You are an angry person. You eat too much chili and you watch too many violent Bollywood movies. And you married the wrong person and you hate your job. And there may be 100 reasons why you're angry. And you're like total Pitta, we do your pulse and, it's like you could warm up a room in Alaska in the winter, you're so hot. All right. So that's who I am. So therefore, when I get angry, it's just normal. Of course I'm angry. I'm Pitta. I had this childhood trauma, whatever. So I don't want to minimize it, but the point is that if you identify with it, then you're stuck with it. And then you will act that way. It's like you have to act that way because that's your identity, right? So you don't want a disempowering identity, obviously, do you? Because for better or for worse, the reality is we act according to our identity. So I think I'm the body, guess how I act? I think I'm spirit soul, servant of Krishna, guess how I act, right? So it's whatever identity we have that's not helpful for our bhakti, we should pray to get the identity which is helpful, right? Yes? So imagine, you know my story. I told you this story before, but when I got my first laptop, it was in 1992. And that was before Windows. So you had to type in, I don't know if you call it code, but you had to type in, if you wanted a screen to come up, you had to type in a code, I guess, some kind of code. It's pretty simple. Just basically type in the name of the thing you want. Then it comes up. So when Windows came out, it was like a different ballgame. But before that, I would just like look at my computer and go, this is all like Greek to me. I don't know what to do. And I'd always have to have people like, which we would call eggheads, who could figure it out, like, what's another word for egghead? Geeks and, like that, bona fide geeks around who could figure it all out. And so I was just look at the computer, and I was like, I can't figure this out. It's like, then when my friend said, he said, actually, it's just math. And I thought, I was actually good in math. And from that day on, I had no problem with the computer because I re-identified. Oh, I'm good at math. It's just math. Okay, I can do this. It wasn't even difficult in the first place. Okay, so another story, and this is so funny. I have I have a studio, and you have to know something to do video. You have to know something to do audio. You have to know something, like if I showed you the software, you look at it and go, well, like what button do you hit? Because there are like 14,000 buttons, and I show you in my studio, all the knobs and lights, and you look at it, especially the women would probably even be more bewildered. But when a woman looks at a washing machine, there's also 14,000 buttons and lights, and she's like, hey, hit this, turn this, put this, the bleach here, you know. So I was alone for like a week, and my laundry's piling up, and I'm looking at the washing machine. I'm thinking, I don't know how to use the washing machine. I'll wait for my wife to come back. Like, do you really think I'm that dumb that I couldn't figure it out? But I'm not a domesticated woman, so I don't know how to use a washing machine, right? If I can use the blender and the toaster and boil water, yeah, I'm doing good, right? So you understand. Can you relate to that? Does that make sense to you? Yeah. Isn't that funny? Washing machine's got lots of dials on it, but the woman's like, we used to have a big stereo system, we had stereo, CD player, cassette player back in, I had like three different, my wife's looking at it like, how do you turn this thing on? How do you do it? It doesn't have as many buttons as your washing machine. You can do that. You can do this. So it's an identity. I'm not a man, so I can't understand the stereo. I'm not a woman, so I can't understand the washing machine. Isn't it something like that? It's identity based. I think those are really good examples of identity based um, limitations. So, um, so it's nice. It's nice for us to understand this. It's nice to pray for this, that I am servant of Krishna. I'm praying. Krishna, please help me realize I'm servant. Please help me realize I'm spirit soul. And whatever it is you want to achieve, you need to identify with that I can do this. And I think also another thing is, which is so important, which we talked in the self-care course, it's not even about, I need to do this well. It's just that this is what should be done for Krishna, so I will do it. It's not even a question of, well, maybe I won't be successful. Well, but your success is that you did it, you tried. And a lot of devotees think, well, I won't do this well, why should I try? One of the reasons is because no one else is doing it and it needs to be done. So even if you fail, it's better that something got done. I don't know how to clean this pot. Well, that's better than nobody cleaning it, right? I'm sure it'll be better, more clean if you try to clean it. Yes? So it's something like that. And of course, the other aspect is that Krishna's, he's not evaluating your bhakti on the basis of how clean you got the pot, although you do get bonus points when it's clean. That's for sure, because you're cleaning your heart. But there's so many things that I have done in devotional service, which I am not very qualified to do, but I see the need for it. And so I think, well, nobody's doing it and it's needed, so I'll fudge it up, but it'll be better than not doing it at all, right? So I'm going to open a center. I don't know anything about opening a center. I can't manage my way out of paper bag, but there's this place in my country where 20 billion hippies have just moved to, and they're all into spiritual life, and we should have a center there. I don't know what I'm doing, but nobody's opening the center. I'll open it. And so you fub it up, if that's a word, fudge it up, mess it up. And next year, 20 new people become devotees, and you're thinking, I don't know how I did that, but well, with 20 billion hippies in one place, at least you should make 20 devotees. Yeah, that would be minimal, right? Even if you don't know what you're doing. So sometimes it's like that. Like, we need to do something, nobody's doing it. And so it's not a question of, I really know how to do it well, I just do it. Of course, if other people's lives are endangered, you don't want to do something you don't know how to do well. Yeah, Prabhu, I'm gonna fly an airplane. Do you have a license? No, I'm just doing it for Krishna. Someone's got to fly it. No, it's not like that. Dr. Burfi would do that, but it's in other cases, it's just do it. And then, as you know, by doing it, you become better. But the I can never do this philosophy, that's going to prevent a lot of Krishna consciousness from spreading, isn't it? You know my little story. This is so funny. We used to distribute books in malls. And in America, it's not actually legal, but it's a really good place to distribute books. And so after we're there a while, some store always complains, there's somebody selling something in the mall in front of our store. So they call the security, they call the security. Security comes looking for us, and they describe what we look like. And in the old days, all the women had long hair and pigtails. That was just your Hare Krishna woman had long hair and pigtails. So it's like she's got long hair and pigtails, and there's like 6 of them in the mall with long hair and pigtails. It's kind of like a giveaway. At a certain point, I told the women, "You're going to wear wigs because this is like they know you're too descript, long, 2 pigtails down to your, you know, down your back." So at one point, we would see the security coming. Obviously, we wanted to stay and distribute books. So we just go into a store in the mall, and the security would be looking, and they'd walk by. We'd go in the store. They walk that way, and we'd walk out, and we'd walk the other way. And we knew it would take them like 20 minutes to get to this side. So we had it all timed. So we were moving around. They were quite frustrated because, at 11:30, they knew we were there, and they didn't catch us till like 5. And they're like, I thought it was fun. I mean, I was like 25. That's exciting when you're a 25-year-old. And sometimes they never caught us because I would follow them and I would tell the devotees, move here, move here. They're coming, go in the store. And they'd be on the phone. Pigtails, 5'7" with pigtails, the books. And I'd be walking next to them listening. And I go, this is fun. And we didn't have cell phones, but I'd run in front. They're coming, move like that, right? So we would go in the stores, and we thought, well, why don't we just stay in the store? Because security's not going to like notice us. So one time I was in a store, and I tend to be kind of funny on Sankirtan. That's my nature, as you can imagine. So I'm talking to a lady, and she said, "Did the store allow you to come in to do this inside?" I go, "Of course not. You think they'd allow me to do this inside here?" And she just started laughing and like gave a donation, right? So, you are confident about something, it kind of transcends limitations, doesn't it? I remember that too. This is like, 45 years ago or more. I remember this because it was so, it was like, yes, when you're in the right consciousness, everyone will just like, okay, whatever. Like she didn't know what to believe. She just laughed and goes, okay. So yeah, isn't that interesting? So it's like, you know, I'm Lord Chaitanya's servant. Store, no store, we go everywhere. There's like no, this world has to be delivered, so we're just like going to deliver everybody, and we do it wherever we can. That's the identity. And so with that identity, it's like, yeah, whatever. Does that make sense? Right. Yeah. So your identity is like, it's like everything. I can, I can't. And so a lot of the identity we built up during Prabhupada's time was like whatever he wanted us to do, we kind of built an identity around that. He wants me to open a temple in this city. Okay, I'm a temple opener. That's who I am because that's what he wants. How do you do it? I don't know. You just go. Figure it out, jump in the water, and you'll figure out how to swim. Otherwise, you die. So it was like that. But that was our identity, so we could do it. And when you look at things we did, and you think, how did you guys do that? That's completely insane. And I would agree. Yes, it is insane. But we had an identity that allowed us to do that. So, although it was insane, it was like, well, it's what Prabhupada wants. So it's what we do. Like when the devotees got arrested, Prabhupada said, it's okay. When they let you out, just, go back and do Harinam and, we can get arrested again and again. So it's like, okay, I'm a martyr for Krishna, and like, no problem. I spend more time in jail than I do in the brahmacharya ashram, but that's okay. That's my identity. I do it for Krishna. So that's how we did it. It was just an identity, right? And the identity is, if you have the identity of, oh, I could never do that, well, you won't do it. That's crazy. That's insane. You guys are nuts. Yeah. So I guess you're not going to be the one to do it. You will have to find someone else who can say, yeah, that's fun. Let's do it. Let's jump off the mountain and Krishna will catch us. Yeah, let's do that. That sounds fun. I'm in for that. Where do I sign the paper? And we jump, because that's my identity. Fearless soldier in Krishna service. Right? Hare Krishna. So identity is everything. And I'm not saying artificially you can have an identity, you don't. But I'm just saying, if you want to achieve something, you need the identity that supports that achievement, and you can't achieve it without that identity. And it's so fundamental to human psychology, and therefore it's so essential to understand. Yes, I am, and what do you put after I am determines everything. I am the body. I am the enjoyer. I am the master. I am the controller. Okay. Welcome to the material world, and I hope you enjoy yourself, because you're going to be here a long time if that's your identity, right? I am servant of Krishna. So once you have that identity, as I said, I'm servant of Krishna, then it's like, this material life stuff, it doesn't work anymore. I can't enjoy the things I used to enjoy. Yeah, because your identity changed. Hello, that's why. It's so simple, isn't it? I had this identity. I'm controller, master, enjoyer, and I'm like out with my friends or having a good time, even though I'm in the cycle of samsara. Everyone's getting old and dying all around me. I don't notice at all, because identity is I'm the enjoyer, I'm God, the controller, master, center. And then I become a devotee and I'm the servant, and all of a sudden I can't enjoy it anymore. Now I can enjoy serving, right? Hmm. Okay. What's my target identity? Identity is I'm a former psychologist, computer programmer who's frustrated doing that stupid job all day. It's my identity. That's the identity I don't want. Okay, I think you know the identity you don't want. What about the one you want? Yeah. Okay. So let's read some prayers after that introduction. That wasn't that long, right? 20 minutes. No, it was long. We started at 9:30. 50-minute introduction. Yeah. Okay. I was also thinking this morning, as I was thinking about these things as my mind often contemplates philosophy and Krishna consciousness. I was thinking about these things, and I was thinking, this is what we're supposed to be thinking about as devotees. We're always supposed to be contemplating philosophy, right? Supposed to be contemplating ideas and thoughts which can bring us closer to Krishna, ideas and thoughts which can disentangle us. Because if we don't, then the mind's going to be overcome by thoughts to entangle us. So analyzing, and I was thinking, a woman might say, but I'm not analytical. I'm just a stupid woman. I don't think that way. And then like, there's so many philosophical, intelligent women. Don't adopt that identity. I mean, that's obviously a problem, right? Because if you're a bona fide woman in the Hare Krishna movement, then you have full realization that you have no intelligence, right? So, I don't know anything, Prabhu. I'm just a less intelligent woman. That's the danger. That's the danger of that, like reading that and misunderstanding it. There's so many intelligent women in this world. It's crazy. And so we should be using that intelligence to take the philosophy, which is making us most intelligent, because nobody has this philosophy. So how intelligent can they be? So we have this philosophy, and then we think about it, we contemplate it all the time, analyze it, look at it from different angles of vision. And what it does is it just brings us closer to Krishna and disentangles us. And when we don't do that, then Maya will come and give us her philosophy. As Prabhupada said, this is Maya's philosophy, which he preaches to us. This is so difficult. You're giving up so much. You're taking so much trouble. Just take it easy. Just relax. You ever heard that one before? What station? Do you have that station in your mind? Did it ever play that station? Yeah, Prabhu, my radio is set on that station. That's the problem. Okay. 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 Yeah, Kamalochan says, at one time, ignorance is bliss. If you become a devotee, we should make a disclaimer that no longer will ignorance be bliss. Sorry. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, you can't take shelter of ignorance anymore. For all the troubles in your life, you'll actually have to take shelter of Krishna. Okay. This is entitled Confession, Request for Shelter, Being Vulnerable. Dainya bodhika, or making known one's insignificance and worthlessness. That's okay. Dainya, that's the meaning of Dainya bodhika, making known one's insignificance and worthlessness. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1 to 154, it is cited as follows: Matulya nashti papatma naparadi cha kashtana. There's no one as Nasti. Nasti is like nasty in a sense. And papatma, papa means sin, papatma. There's no person as equally sinful as me. I'm number one sinner. And naparadi cha kashtana. Kashtana means nobody. There's nobody who make as many aparads as me. Parihare pi laja, make him vuvre Purushottam. I don't know what that means. We'll read it. Oh, Purushottam. In this world, there's no sinner and offender like me. Even though you are an ocean of causeless mercy, I am ashamed even to request you to forgive my offenses. What more shall I say? So this is a prayer of remorse. And remorse it's not a happy emotion, but it's a purifying emotion. And so we look at a lot of these emotions and we think, well, maybe I should run away from them because they're not positive emotions. They're not happy emotions, but they're purifying emotions. So guilt is a purifying emotion. Even shame can be purifying when I'm ashamed I did something, right? I did this and I'm ashamed. Well, that's purifying, right? You should be ashamed. If you're not ashamed, something's wrong with you. So that emotion of I'm ashamed can create boundaries so you don't do it again. So every emotion can be used positively. So this prayer is a prayer of remorse. So what does remorse do? Well, at least what it's supposed to do is kind of create a governor. Governor means a limitation, a limiter on what I do. So that if I'm sufficiently remorseful for what I've done, then I wouldn't do it again. That's the idea. So the idea of praying in remorse is to strengthen that remorse, which strengthens that limitation, which would prevent me from doing it again. Like, how can I? And to be remorseful, you have to appreciate what it is you offended, or what it is you didn't do, or what it is you went against, right? So like in the second verse of Shishastakam, Mahaprabhu is glorifying the holy name, and then he's saying, I don't have any attraction. So you can't be remorseful. How can you be remorseful unless you appreciate the thing you neglected? If the thing you neglected is not good, well, why be remorseful? You neglected something. What did you neglect? Well, it was an old junk car full of rust, 8,000 years old. I neglected it. No remorse. You're happy you neglected it. It was just a problem. So you're appreciating to be remorseful. You have to have appreciation to be remorseful. And so the remorse is that I appreciate you, or I appreciate this so much that I feel bad that I've neglected it. And therefore, I never want to neglect it again. As I've said often, one of the best things you can do for your japa is to be remorseful to the point where it's impossible to chant bad rounds. So it's like you can't do it anymore. You know, let's say, gentlemen, you have a really good wife, but you are not a really good husband. And your wife gets fed up with you and she just says, I can't take it anymore. I'm leaving. And she packs up and she moves back in her parents' home. What do you do at this point? If you really want a relationship, you start to regret. She's such a good wife and I mistreated her, right? So you call her and you beg her and you say, I'll never do this and that again. I love you. I want to be with you, etc. Right? So if she agrees and she comes back, you're very careful now, right? Not to do the same things you did, isn't it? Whereas if she never left, maybe you wouldn't be, because you wouldn't be remorseful because she didn't leave and she didn't express how much you hurt her. But when she expresses it and leaves, you become remorseful. So that remorse then causes you not to make that same mistake again. So if we become remorseful for anything that we've done, hopefully we'll never do that again and never come close to it. So the other day I was chanting and I was thinking about remorse. I think about it a lot because it's so, I'm looking for the word. It's so, where's the word? I can't think of it. The word is, it just brings you back into the reality you want to be in. It like shocks you into. So when I think, I was chanting my rounds and I was thinking, this is not good enough. And so I remember this teaching of Bhaktivinoda Thakur about remorse, because remorse will create higher standards. And then I go into remorse and I think, I can't go below this standard. So I would say I'm chanting down here. I'm like, no, this is wrong. I've offended your holy name. I'm offending it again. I can't do this anymore. So that's the idea of this prayer. I've made mistakes. The remorse is saying I can't do it anymore. I will not do it anymore. I can't tolerate myself doing it anymore. Yes? I'm ashamed to even request you to forgive my offenses. What I feel so bad about it. That and of course, I think even more important is more important than requesting, although that's part of bhakti. Please forgive me for my offenses. More important is just don't make them anymore, because that's in my mind, that's the best request you can make. Of course, you can tell Krishna, I will never do this again. Please forgive me. I'm ashamed to ask you to forgive me. What I've done is so bad. But the real remorse is, I won't do it again. Krishna, I've committed so many offenses to your holy name. Never again. I won't do it again. If we could come to that platform, wouldn't that be amazing? Like, we'd never chant offensively ever again in this lifetime. We can't do it because the remorse has gone so deep, it's impossible. I can't mistreat my wife like this. The remorse has gone so deep. I can't do A, B, and C anymore because the remorse has gone so deep. So if you find yourself doing something that you don't want to do, maybe you're not remorseful about it. And maybe if you become more remorseful, sufficiently remorseful, you'll actually be able to stop doing it. You won't be able to bring yourself to do it because you feel so bad about it. And so that's kind of what the mood of this prayer, where it's going. Like, I feel so bad about it, I can't do it. Does that make sense? That's beautiful, isn't it? I think like, we know how the topic of self-care was never really brought up in ISKCON. And I think this is another topic that's not really brought up in ISKCON, remorse. It's very Christian. It seems very Christian. But we can see in the prayers of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's all over there. It's just not, it's not like, during our morning sadhana, we have a half hour for remorse. Right after Mangalarti, okay, before you chant your rounds, 15-minute remorse meditation. But it's like anything you're trying to overcome. If you're remorseful about your misbehavior, it's powerful. So I'll read it again. Oh, Purushottam, in this world, there's no sinner and offender like me. And he's not saying that as an excuse. It's just that's how he feels. I feel, I just feel bad because I've fallen short. And so that feeling bad for falling short is purifying and motivating to improve. If we feel bad for falling short and it's tamasic, it doesn't motivate us. But if we're feeling bad for falling short and it's coming out of a pure heart, it will motivate us. And this is sometimes where devotees get confused because, I talk about this, I talk against this tamasic remorse and the tamasic lamentation. And then you read what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, and it seems like it's the same thing. But it's not the same thing at all. So, like, I am the most fallen, that can be very discouraging. That can be, what Bhaktivinoda is saying here, there's no sinner and offender like me. For us, that can be our excuse to stop trying, right? He's not saying that as an excuse, obviously. There's no sinner and offender like me. Therefore, what's the use? I give up. That's tamagun. So what does he say? You are an ocean of causeless mercy. I am ashamed even to request you to forgive my offenses. What more shall I say? He's requesting Krishna to forgive his offenses because he needs Krishna to forgive his offenses so he can go forward in his bhakti. So it's not an excuse. He's just expressing how he feels. And we should feel that way, isn't it? If you ask Krishna, say, please forgive me. Yeah, you should feel embarrassed. But that feeling ashamed is purifying. Again, feeling shame in tamagun is not purifying, but feeling shame as he's feeling it's how do we say? It prevents me from doing, if I feel shame deeply, it should prevent me from doing it again, shouldn't it? You ever say, I'm really ashamed that I did this? The connotation is remorse. The connotation is, I'm not going to do that again. I will never do that again. The shame is sobering. Right? So, we look at shame as something bad, you don't want to go there. That's a tamasic shame. But this kind of shame can chasten you. I'm ashamed that I did that. I'll never do it again. That's the idea. And I'm ashamed that I'm your devotee, that I did this. Yeah. So as your devotee, I can't do this. Have you ever done something you felt ashamed? Oh, my Guru Maharaj would kill me if he knew I did this. That's good. You should feel ashamed. If you didn't, something's wrong with you. Guru Maharaj, I did this. Did you feel ashamed? No. That's not good. Yes, I felt really ashamed. All right. Probably you won't do it again. Good. But if you didn't feel ashamed, probably you'll do it again. Okay. Oh, Karina says, identity has become so complex to a point where people are changing their pronouns. Actually, in the Vedic pronouns, there's 3. Kshatriya, it says in Shastra Tree. There's a neutral, male, female, and neutral. It doesn't talk so much about males who think they're females and females who think they're males. But it does talk about the neuter. They call it, or neutral. I forget what the word is in Sanskrit. Anybody know? For the third gender, what the word is? They're not men, they're not women, they're androgynous. There is a word for it. You have to go to that website, Chaitanya Dasi, Amara's website. give you the quote. Yeah. And as we know the story, when this one man wanted to be a woman, Prabhupada was okay with that. But he was not okay with the man going back and forth, one day woman, one day man. I mean, you can imagine if your mother was one day a woman and one day a man, and it was changing. The afternoon she came home as a man, that's, probably the result of having a very unstable upbringing and then passing it on to the next generation. That would be difficult. So, people want to exert their rights, but you also have to think when you exert your rights, how will that affect the next generation? One day your mother's a man, one day she's a woman, one day your father's a man, one day he's a woman. Like, that'd be a bit confusing, don't you think? To treat your bhakti, the three, that's the three. That's the third prakriti, right? To treat your prakriti, the third. And what is that third? It's called neuter, androgynous, I think. They're not male or female. Yeah. So according to Vedic, there's three pronouns. Eunuch, yeah. There's three pronouns. So you can be any pronoun you want, but according to Prabhupada, just stay that pronoun. Of course, it does make it awkward if you're a man and you dress as a woman and you want to sleep in the brahmacharya ashram. That does pose. And those would be things that ISKCON is going to have to deal with in the future. If this movement is here to stay and popular, we'll have to deal with these things. I have a godbrother who said, in Vedic times, they weren't really into psychology because they had these like loving, stable families. So all the problems we have today, they didn't have. So they didn't need it, It's like if you go back 5,000 years and say the doctors weren't very advanced. Well, that's because you have 10 million more diseases now than they had. They didn't have to know how to cure these diseases. They didn't have them, right? So it's a bit like that. What to do to remind me that I am servant of Krishna? Get a tattoo on your heart. I think you should remind yourself you're a servant as often as you want. Just tell yourself, I'm servant. I'm not a master. Krishna's a master. I'm the servant. You can tell yourself all day. But probably better than that is to act that way all day. Then you don't have to remind yourself because you're doing it. And the actions, about neuroplasticity, the mind, the neural connections in the mind change through action. So if you're acting as a servant, then your mind becomes geared to feel, believe, and sense that that's what I am. But if you act as an enjoyer, how are you going to remember you're a servant? So Manindra, you're telling yourself, I'm a servant of Krishna while you're eating 4 gallons of ice cream. Yeah, I don't think it's going to work. It's not going to wire your brain. It's going to wire your brain to think I'm an ice cream eater. And your intellect will know you're a servant. So of course you want to remind yourself, but you want to act that way because that's what will create the identity more strongly than anything. Now we have another problem. You could serve Krishna in the mood of an enjoyer. And so then it's not going to work. Because the whole time you're thinking, I'm going to serve Krishna so I can get upward mobility, become the temple president, lord it over everyone, steal money, no one's going to know, manipulate people, get the best woman to marry me and like that. So that's not going to help. Right? It's not going to help. It's going to destroy you. Yeah. Remorse is heavy. Remorse. So we want to spiritualize remorse in a way that can have a positive effect on us, as with everything. As with every emotion, we want to see how it can have a positive effect on us. Because Prabhupada was very kind with us for our past misdeeds. And he wanted to see us move forward. So although he would hold us accountable, it wouldn't be eternally accountable. He would hold us accountable long enough that we would make amends. And once we made amends, he would release us, take the chains off. Like, you made a mistake, what are you going to do? So then you would say, Prabhupada, this is what I'm going to do. He'd say, okay, then do it. And it's finished, it's gone. The past has been erased because now you're, Prabhupada, I'm lost. I got off the road. What are you going to do? Well, I'm looking at the GPS and it says I went 14 miles out. Okay, so what do you know? I think I have to go back 14 miles to get on the other. Okay, do it. We'll be late, Prabhupada, an hour. Okay, get back on the road, do it. Forgotten. Prabhupada may say, why are you not paying attention? How could you do this? You know this is important. Chastise you, whatever. You say, I'm sorry, I feel horrible. And you know, Prabhupada was like, okay, you feel sorry and feel horrible. That's all right, but what are you going to do? As soon as you said what you're going to do, Prabhupada's like, okay, it's forgotten. Just do it. That's what I saw. So I think that's good for us to remember. You know, when we make amends, we feel remorseful. That remorse should cause us to make amends, to do the right thing. And then from Prabhupada's position, it's forgotten. It's like, whatever. Now you're on the right path. You're back on the road. Okay, so you got lost. Whatever. It doesn't matter anymore. What matters is you're on the right road now. And that's what Prabhupada saw. He had to see that way. Otherwise, he couldn't accept us. And even Prabhupada, in one letter, he said, you can give first initiation very easily. Give them a chance. So it's like, look at all you've done in the past. Whatever. Give them a chance to get back on the road and go forward. And if they get back on the road and they go forward long enough, well enough, then you can give them second initiation, but not until you are sure that they're going to stand. They've been on this road long enough and they're going to stay on it and they know how to drive and their car works. And if that's the case, give them second. If we're not sure the car works, we're not sure they know how to drive, but they say they're willing to drive and try, okay, give it to them. So it's like, all right, we'll give you a chance. And if you mess up, well, yeah, we kind of expected there was a 50% chance you would, but at least you tried. But so I think it's important to know that Srila Prabhupada, he holds us accountable only to the point where we rectify ourselves. And then once we rectify ourselves, okay. But what if I fall? Get up, rectify yourself. What if I fall again? Get up. What if I fall again? Get up. And know that as long as you get up, Prabhupada's rooting for you. And he's not going to hold you accountable. What if I keep getting up and falling down? Well, yeah, you will be remorseful and it could become tamasic. And that's the gamble if you don't correct yourself, that you may not be able to overcome that tamasic remorse because you keep crashing. And so if you actually care about yourself and care about developing a healthy relationship with yourself, you're going to want to improve yourself to the point where you don't have to regret what you're doing. That makes sense within the self-care context. If I care about myself enough and I know that if I keep messing up, I just suffer, then I'm going to stop messing up for my own well-being, right? Now, sometimes we mess up, but we don't mess up. We just think we messed up because, oh, for 1 nanosecond, I had a thought of something other than Krishna. I'm so bad. I'm so horrible. What's the use of going on? No, that's not what it means to mess up. So we also have to be careful about what we're remorseful about. Sometimes we might be remorseful about something that we shouldn't be because we didn't really do anything other than what every other conditioned soul is trying to become Krishna conscious is doing. It's just like normal. So sometimes you can be remorseful for what's normal. You know, like give someone some japa beads and ask them to chant 16 rounds out of nowhere. And you will see after 10, 15 minutes, they are having a difficult time concentrating unless they've practiced meditation. That's just normal. They're distracted, they don't have a taste, they don't realize Krishna's there. So they could be they could lament, oh, I don't like this chanting, something's wrong with me. No, you're just normal conditioned soul. But you tried, so that's good. Okay. Carlos says, sometime for some time I was practicing chanting with remorse, my japa was improving. I was very attentive, but maybe I was overdoing it because it was making me feel unworthy of being happy. Tamagun, red flag, alerts, beep, beep. Nothing that you do that is Krishna conscious is going to have any negative effect on your Krishna consciousness. And one negative effect is unhappy. So if you're unhappy in your Krishna consciousness, it should make you happy if it's Krishna. Your unhappiness should make you happy if it's Krishna conscious. We can maybe explain that later, but wrap your head around that. My unhappiness, which is like my remorse or my failure, is making me happy because I'm trying harder. Or that I'm happy that I'm recognizing my faults, and I'm happy that I am correcting my faults. And it was the unhappiness that caused me to recognize those faults. So I feel really good that I'm working on myself to improve. So I'm happy being unhappy. I'm happy with myself, but it's making me happy that I'm doing better. So, how do you find a healthy balance to help your japa but not get depressed? Depression is it's material depression. You can be spiritually depressed. You should be spiritually depressed. But spiritual depression is ecstatic, and material depression is miserable. So, every emotion, so-called negative emotion in Krishna consciousness, causes you to hanker more to be Krishna conscious. And every material negative emotion causes you to want to give up Krishna consciousness. So that's how you know. So then the question would be, well, what kind of depression would cause me to hanker? Well, what we're talking about here. Krishna, my rounds are horrible. And you're like, you wake up in the morning, this morning, they're going to be good. I'm so depressed with my japa. Today, this japa is going to be amazing. Okay, that's how it should be. I'm so depressed with my lack of self-control. I'm only going to eat half as much as I normally eat today. I bought new bowls and cups. And spoons. They're all half the size of my old ones. So I'm going to fill them up half size, and that's all I'm going to eat. I'm just like frustrated. I hate myself. I'm depressed. Okay, hating yourself is tamasic, but can you hate yourself in a way that you improve? You could, and that will make you happy. So now I'm so happy with my new bowls. This morning I only ate half. Instead of 4 tons of khichdi, I only ate 2. So I'm doing good. But maybe next week you realize, well, that's actually 2 tons is too much. So anything that's inspiring you is fine. So you can be spiritually depressed. Why not? I would say, Carlos, if you're not spiritually depressed when you're not doing your service well and your sadhana well, then something's wrong with you. You should be. That would be normal. But feeling that depression, I don't want that depression. I want bliss in Krishna consciousness. So that depression is pushing me to improve. So that's transcendental depression. Any so-called negative emotion that pushes you to improve is transcendental. Any negative emotion that discourages you is material. So the same emotion, at least the same word that we use for the emotion, can have completely opposite effects. Yeah. You ever chant really bad rounds and you feel really horrible afterwards? That's good. You ever chant really horrible rounds and just feel like, okay, what's next? Where's the ice cream? That's not good. Right? My rounds are so bad, I need to eat chocolate ice cream with whipped cream just to overcome. That would not be good. It's like, my rounds are bad, I'm depressed. And then you think, I can't chant like this every day. This is not good. I need to do something. I need to get up earlier, or whatever the problem was. I need to be in a quiet place, or I need to turn my phone off, or whatever. So that kind of depression is really good. But if the other depression is like, what's the use? I can't chant good rounds, then I don't even try the next morning, and I'm just like on my phone chanting, just get my rounds done. Then that's material depression, and that's where it'll take you down, 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 down. I think I answered the next question, how to transform material depression into spiritual depression. Well, you don't have to transform it into spiritual depression. You just have to use it. Yeah, I guess that's transformation. Yeah. If your material depression helps you pray, that's good. Krishna, help. I need your help. Save me. But it's always the spiritual depression, as we're saying here, the transformation is the action. Because if it's material depression, material depression is tamasic. It makes you inactive. You don't want to do anything. What's the use? Spiritual depression makes you more active to improve. So if you feel depressed, go into action mode to improve, then you've now transitioned into spiritual depression. Because tamagun is inertia. Everything, rajas is what happens. So sometimes we joke, well, better be in rajas than tamas. Rajas is better than tamas. It's not the goal, but it's better. At least you're doing something, right? So tamas is inaction. So your depression causes inaction. That's normal, right? I don't want to do anything. What's the use? Doesn't matter. Nobody cares, etc., etc. No one appreciates me. Nobody cares how I feel. You can, self-pity is also part of tamagun. But let me do something to, let me act in a way that would help me use this feeling in a way that I could become more Krishna conscious. Like, I'm sick, therefore I need to take care of myself, or therefore I'm sick. What's the use? I'll just remain sick. Doesn't matter. Right? Doesn't make sense, does it? You ever get sick and then you're like taking you go through your, every drawer in your house and where's this herb? Where's this vitamin? And you're like, magnesium, vitamin C, vitamin B. What's that? Zinc. Zinc's good if you're sick. Zinc, you're like, you ever do that? You're like, your body becomes like a pharmacy when you're sick. So, that's the idea. As opposed to, what's the use? I'll never get better. And I'll just eat ice cream. That's material depression. So then you're feeding the depression more instead of getting out of it. And of course, all the things you do to get out of it will prevent you from going into it in the future, right? All those vitamins. And I'm not going to get sick because I'm taking them when I'm not sick, so I won't get sick. Okay. Something for the Gen Z devotees to look forward to. Yeah. You can look forward to the fact that people are going to be so much in anxiety and so miserable that they'll be ready for Krishna consciousness and they'll all be marrying robots, and that's not going to work. Robots will be driving their cars, cleaning their houses. Robots will be their lovers. They'll all be living in a virtual world. They won't even be able to relate to people. Yeah. That's what you have to look forward to, great increased opportunities to spread Krishna consciousness. I don't know if it's going to be interesting, right? Affirmations are tools to change identity. Yeah, they can. I have spiritual affirmations. If you go somewhere online, they should be there. I am full of love, light, and so forth. I am eternal servant. I am knowledge. I am bliss. Yeah, these are our identities. If someone asks me, Prabhu, how are you? Oftentimes I'll say, I am full of knowledge, full of bliss, and eternal. That's how I am. So if you like to use that as a reply to how are you, it's a reminder. How are you? I am Satchidananda Vigraha. I'm Satchidananda. And you? How are you? Oh, Prabhu, really bad. This, that, and the next thing. No, that's not who you are. That's just you. Identified with that. So yes, you can use affirmations too. I am capable. These are material affirmations. I'm capable, I'm intelligent, and so forth. But sometimes we need that. Wouldn't you qualify acting and exploitation as tamaguna? Yeah. Yeah, rajaguna, more rajaguna. Because acting is rajaguna, and rajaguna is motivation is personal. Tamaguna is like, it's too much trouble. Prabhu, you want to exploit this person? Too much trouble. So let's eat another gallon of ice cream. That's Tamaguna. But Raju going, yeah, let's go. Let's get for it. Let's take advantage. We'll get rich. Exploit people. So Abhishek is sharing. What are you sharing? The affirmations? Yeah. Okay. It's 10:58. Time flies when you're having fun. Yeah, affirmations. Yeah. Do you have the spiritual self affirmations? Those are nice. We have all these spiritual self-identity affirmations. We just don't realize we have. Let me see if I can find them. Hold on. I have to remember the name. Yeah. Whoops. Hold on. Oh, there they are. Wait. Give me one more second. I don't know what I titled it, so I can't find. Does anybody know what I titled it? Yeah. Hold on, everyone. It's your lucky day. I have it in a PowerPoint. We have 1 minute. I will share the PowerPoint. What do you think? Exciting way to end class? Why not? Today's your lucky day. Spiritual self-affirmations. I am an atomic particle of spirit. Anu. I am part of the Supreme Spirit. I am an eternal servant of the Supreme and of all living beings. I am an individual person and eternally active. I am consciousness, Jnana Shakti. I reside within the heart along with the Supersoul. I am higher than the senses, mind, and intelligence. I am the master of my body, the observer and knower of my body, and am unaffected by the changes of my body. I am not dependent on my body, but my body is dependent on me. I give my body life. I am transcendental, above material action and reaction. I am unborn, immutable, invincible, indestructible, ever existing and eternally the same. I cannot be cut to pieces, burned by fire, moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. I am full of knowledge, chit, and full of bliss, ananda. I am full of light. As a sample of God, I possess divine qualities. Pure love of God is my nature. I am dear to everyone. I am auspicious. I am amazing. Wow. You are amazing. Hare Krishna. Well, there's your identity, everyone. Hope you like your new identity. Hare Krishna. Okay. So we will see you all in England in 2 days, if you're there. Otherwise, we will announce the class schedule. I don't know what it is. It's a bit spontaneous when I travel, but we will announce it. Okay. Hare Krishna to everyone. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premanande.
His Grace Mahatma Prabhu ki jai.
Gauranga Nityananda.